I paid for my best friend's medical school tuition after her parents died. Then she testified against me in court, so my ex could win custody. 3 years later, a hospital audit exposed the secret. She thought I'd never discover. I still remember the exact moment everything started collapsing, because it didn't feel like a big dramatic explosion. It felt like my life quietly getting hijacked by people I trusted most. First it was Emma, my best friend since I was 13, the same girl who called me crying at 3 a.m. after her parents died, and I didn't even think twice before stepping in. I paid her medical school tuition not once, not twice, but semester after semester because she was almost done, and I genuinely believed I was helping her survive something awful. I wasn't keeping score, she was basically family at that point, or so I thought. Meanwhile, my actual life was already unstable because my ex Ryan and I were in this toxic co-parenting situation with our daughter Ava, where everything turned into an argument, even when it didn't need to be. Like if I said it was cold outside, he would somehow disagree just to disagree. Then he started dating Kelsey, who acted like she was suddenly Ava's bonus mom after like 2 weeks, which already set me on edge. But I was still holding things together for my kid, until Ryan randomly filed for expanded custody. And I honestly thought it was just another intimidation move, until I saw Emma's name listed as a witness, and that's when everything stopped making sense. I called her immediately. No answer. I went to her place. No response. And I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation because why would my best friend ever get involved in a custody case against me? Then court day came, and she actually showed up sitting on Ryan's side like she belonged there. I don't remember every word she said on the stand, because honestly it felt like my brain just stopped recording halfway through. But I do remember her saying I was emotionally unstable, and that Ava seemed anxious around me, and the worst part was, she used private things I had told her years ago, things I only ever said because I trusted her completely. Ryan just sat there like he had won something while I felt like I was watching my entire life get rewritten in real time. And when I confronted Emma in the hallway, after she wouldn't even fully look at me, she just kept saying she was doing what was best for Ava, which made no sense because she barely even knew my daughter at that point. And then she finally admitted she had been talking to Ryan privately for months about me, like my parenting, my mental state, everything I had ever confided in her. I remember laughing at one point because it felt so unreal, like I was in the wrong room in the wrong life, and then the custody ruling came out worse than I expected. Ryan got more custody time, and I had to sit in my car afterward while Ava asked me why I looked like I was going to cry, and I couldn't even answer her properly because I didn't want her to see me break. The thing that made it even worse was that Emma didn't disappear after that. She stayed in my orbit, just enough that I kept hearing things like she was still around Ryan and Kelsey at different points, and people started quietly choosing sides in our friend group, until it turned into this weird, unspoken split where nobody wanted to say it out loud, but everyone knew something had gone very wrong between us. And then came the moment that made it public. I showed up at a mutual friend's wedding, thinking I could just stay low-key and get through the night. But I walked into the reception and saw Emma, sitting with Ryan and Kelsey at the same table, laughing like none of this history existed, and the second they saw me, the entire table went silent in that heavy way, where everyone suddenly becomes very interested in their drinks. And I tried to ignore it, but Kelsey made a comment about healthy co-parenting, loud enough for people around us to hear, and something in me just snapped. I don't even remember standing up fully before words started flying, and suddenly people were watching and recording, and chairs were scraping, and I remember thinking, this is insane, this is actually my real life right now, and I left early, shaking not because I lost control, but because I realized I had lost control of the entire situation months ago, and I just hadn't accepted it yet, and I thought that was the worst it would get. But I was wrong, because what I didn't know then was that Emma and Ryan's whole "we are just aligned for Ava's stability" act was already starting to crack in ways nobody was talking about yet, and that crack was about to pull everything down. After that wedding, everything went quiet in a way that should have felt peaceful, but actually felt worse, like the calm. Before something hits, Emma stopped showing up in my direct life, but she never fully disappeared either, because Ava would still mention her sometimes from Ryan's house, like, Emma was there again, or Emma helped make dinner. And every time I heard it, I'd just freeze for a second, trying to figure out when exactly my best friend became someone who casually hung out at my ex's house like it was normal. I called Ryan to ask him directly, and he gave me that fake, calm voice people use when they know they're lying, and said they were just friends, which would have been funny if it didn't feel so obvious, but I didn't have proof of anything concrete, so I just sat with that discomfort until it started leaking into everything. Then one day a mutual friend accidentally let it slip that Emma and Ryan weren't just hanging out. They were actually spending a lot of time together, like dinners, family stuff, even holidays, and I remember just staring at my phone like, okay, so we're fully doing this now. And what made it worse is Kelsey found out too, at least partially, because suddenly she was posting these vague, messy statuses about betrayal and fake friends without naming names, but everyone knew exactly who she meant, and the whole situation exploded socially in this slow, disgusting way, where nobody confronted anyone directly, but everybody was talking about it. Meanwhile, Emma was still posting her perfect life version online, white coat photos, hospital shifts, smiling group, pictures like nothing in her real life was on fire, and I hated how normal she made herself look, while everything around her was clearly collapsing behind the scenes, because it didn't match what people were whispering about. Her financial stress started coming up in conversations too, like she was suddenly borrowing money from multiple people and not paying it back. And at first I thought that was just gossip until I heard the same story from 3 different people without them even coordinating it. And that's when I started realizing something was seriously off. Then things escalated at her hospital job. There was this big charity fundraiser event she helped organize, and during it, some donor publicly confronted her about missing money tied to a pledge she had handled, and I wasn't there. But people kept replaying it like it was a clip from a show, saying her face changed instantly, like she got caught off guard in a way she couldn't talk her way out of. And after that night, the rumors got louder. Not official accusations, just enough chaos for everyone to start connecting dots in their own heads. Emma suddenly wasn't the confident, successful med school survivor anymore. She was stressed, defensive, constantly overwhelmed, and avoiding people she used to be close to, including Ryan, who also started pulling away. Because their relationship started turning on itself once the excitement of us versus her disappeared, and it became just them in real life with real problems. And Ava was stuck in the middle of all this confusion, asking me why adults kept arguing. And I honestly didn't even know how to explain that people can fall apart without warning, until one day Ryan filed another custody request again, like he always does whenever his life gets messy. But this time, it didn't hit the same, because something felt unstable. About him too, like he wasn't as confident anymore. And around the same time, Emma's work situation went from rumors to something real when she got placed under internal review at the hospital, over inconsistencies tied to financial assistance paperwork. Nothing criminal proven yet, but enough that she was suddenly suspended. And that's when everything she had been holding together just stopped working. She lost stability, she lost control, and more importantly, she lost the narrative. She had been telling everyone about her life because now she couldn't explain anything away, and I remember hearing that news and not feeling happy or satisfied. Just this weird, exhausted clarity like, oh, this is actually happening for real. And I didn't even have time to process it, because a few weeks later, Emma reached out to me directly for the first time in years. And what she said in that message made it very clear this wasn't going to be some dramatic confrontation or apology. This was going to be something much worse. She wanted to explain why she testified against me. And I almost didn't respond because I knew whatever truth she was about to give me was going to change everything I thought I understood about that courtroom, and her and me, and honestly, I wasn't ready for it. I met Emma in person because I needed to hear it directly, and not through some messy text thread. And when she showed up, she looked completely different. Like the version of her I remembered had been replaced with someone who looked exhausted. In a way sleep doesn't fix. She didn't even sit right away. She just stood there like she was trying to decide if she could actually say what she came to say. Then she finally admitted she had been in contact with Ryan during the custody case. And my first reaction wasn't even anger, it was disbelief. Because I couldn't understand how it went from us being best friends to her sitting in court, helping him build a case against me, and she kept trying to explain it in this broken way, saying she was grieving her parents and emotionally unstable herself at the time. And Ryan had been feeding her this version of me that I was unpredictable and difficult, and she said she didn't fully believe it at first, but the more she heard it, the more she started doubting her own judgment. And then she said the part that actually hit hardest. She said the money I gave her for medical school started feeling like something she could never repay. And when Ryan framed the custody situation as her balancing things out, she convinced herself she was correcting a debt instead of betraying a friend I remember. Just sitting there not interrupting. Because there was nothing I could say that wouldn't turn into something ugly. And she kept going, saying she genuinely thought she was helping Ava in the moment. But over time, she realized she had helped create a situation where a child lost time with her mother, and that realization didn't hit her immediately. It built slowly until it started wrecking her life from the inside out. She told me Ryan and her didn't even last the way people probably assumed, because once the custody case ended, they didn't have a shared enemy anymore, and everything between them turned into constant arguments. About money pressure and resentment, and suddenly all that unity they had built on my downfall just collapsed, and I won't lie, hearing that didn't make me feel better, it just made everything feel more pointless, like so many people had destroyed so much, just to end up unhappy anyway. And I told her straight up, I couldn't just forgive it. Because it wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a choice. Even if she made it while emotionally unstable, it still happened.